Galimera, Galimera, Galimera. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And as you can see, I've started the broadcast this morning from inside the house. The reason why is the weather's been absolutely awful this past 24 hours. Although we've got a bit of cloud at the moment with a little bit of sun, but not a lot. This morning we were down at the vets, took two of the cats to see old Spiro down at my vet just for a couple of jabs. They're all right. So anyway, came straight back and thought, well, might as well crack on with the news for today. Big shout out to Ian Wallace and Brian Darlington already tuning in. Right, the weather this morning from the lovely Amanda. Good morning, Ginge, she says. Morning, Monday's weather, rain throughout the day with some thunderstorms. Temperatures 18 degrees. It's going to feel like 14 degrees. Have a great day. I've got to be honest, it's not very pleasant out. And also yesterday, the rain was just absolutely incredible, especially down in Kalamaki where we were yesterday. Thank you to those people who've been concerned about the cats down in that location. To be honest, it was a horrible day. Big Thomas, the Tom down at Zeppo's came running to meet us, pleased we were showing up. So don't worry, there's other people in our group that will feed on the other days. It's just not me and Jane doing it. There's loads of us that go out and feed around that area. So hopefully the little numbers which were depleted yesterday may start to reform when the weather gets slightly better and they all come out of hiding wherever they've been laying up with the actual bad weather. But anyway, let's have a look at COVID in the last 24 hours then. Just to let you know that the infection rate has been going down here in Greece over the past 24 hours. Yesterday, I did report to you 5,817 new cases across the country. Today, the number is 3,823 new cases across the country. So it has dipped a little. Also, entries into the country, that has dipped slightly as well. We had 12 cases detected at ports of entry. That's dropped to 10 new cases, which has been found at ports of entry into the country. Now, as it's a Monday, I'm going to quickly look at the stats for the islands of interest and do a comparison about their infection rates from the previous weeks. Macardo, they reported 5 new cases. They had 6 yesterday. Their total cases for last week was 79 cases. So their cases are up on the week before where they had 54, and the week before that they had 88 cases, and that island is still in the green at the moment. Now, when it comes to Corfu, within the last 24 hours, they've reported 65 new cases. That's up on the 85 from the report before that. But they've had 503 cases in the past week, which is down on the week before where they had 655. And the week before that, they had 567. That island is still in dark red at the moment. As for Kefalonia, our neighbours across the water, they had only 7 new infections recorded within the last 24 hours. The day before that, they had 17. And for last week, they had 85 cases. That's the highest amount they've had in this last 3 weeks, because the week before that, they had 44, and the week before that, they had 71. Now, the island we're all looking forward to, you probably hearing the stats for, Zakynthos. Zakynthos had 10 cases reported within the last 24 hours, which was down on the day before where they had 17. This week, Zakynthos has had 118 cases. The week before we had 126, and the week before that we had 144. However, we are still in the light shade of red, but at least our epidemiology does seem to be going down over the past 3 weeks, where the other islands are kind of up and down. So anyway, we're going to keep an eye on that, as I always do through the week, and obviously see how the epidemiology plays out. When it comes to deaths, across Greece, I'm afraid the death rate has gone up. Yesterday I reported to you that it was 82 deaths. Well, today I can report 96 new deaths across the country. That's obviously up on yesterday, And the day before yesterday, we had 86. So it looked like the deaths were going down, but now the deaths are going back up again. Anyway, that brings the death toll now to 17,959. 95% of those people had underlying diseases or were at the age of 70 or over. And once again, our condolences to families for their loss at this time. Moving on to the ICUs across Greece, that number again, that is starting to creep up. Yesterday I reported to you 641 critical cases in hospital across the country. That number now has risen to 647. Critical cases in hospital, then 387 of those are male. 260 of those are female. The average age of those people is about 65 years of age. 80% of them have underlying health conditions or are over the age of 70. Now, regarding the vaccination status of those people within the ICUs, 522, they are unvaccinated or they've had a partial vaccination. They probably only had one jab, while 125 of those are fully vaccinated. Now, when it comes to the news then, everything at the moment is in a quandary with what's been going on. I know for Jane and I, we are going to be looking at this next couple of weeks very seriously because this will determine whether we go back to the UK or not. We've already been making provisions for going back, obviously getting extra COVID tests delivered to where Jane's mum is. Also aware that we're going to have to, well, I'm already having to do quarantine anyway, but Jane is going to have to do a certain amount of quarantine until results from PCR tests are delivered, etc., etc. So going back to the UK now is going to be difficult. Just a quick little heads up. We saw a friend yesterday. She's going back to the UK this week. Just to let you know, if you're somebody who's flying into the UK at the moment, you can actually do a test as soon as you get off the aircraft. You can do a PCR test to cover you for the new arrival, which you can do at the airport. So that will save you time without you having to close down for at least 3 days while you wait for test results to come. So again, it enables anybody who's going back just to be able to get out of jail a little bit quicker. So be aware of that. I think she's flying into Gatwick Airport, our friend, and at the Radisson Hotel there is a setup there where you can PCR test on arrival so that you can avoid having to stay in lockdown. This is obviously if you're double jabbed, by the way, before you're allowed out on your return. But anyway, that's a little heads up for you. But anyway, with the daily infection and death rates hovering at a constantly high level here in Greece and amid heightened concerns on a pan-European level due to the Omicron variant, the next fortnight here in Greece is going to be pivotal in regarding the strategy that the Greek government will deploy to manage the fourth pandemic. It's interesting they're calling it a fourth pandemic. I thought we had a fourth pandemic, and what we're looking at now technically would be a fifth pandemic. But I'm so confused now where we stand in the way of pandemics, because everything that we get is a pandemic. So I'll let them say fourth pandemic when I think a lot of us are thinking, aren't we in the fifth? But that's by the by. Anyway, this fourth pandemic, whose peak is expected, according to estimates, to be around about mid-December. Anyway, nonetheless, despite the ever-increasing pressure on the health system, the Greek government estimates suggests that the solution can remain under control, ruling out the prospect of a general lockdown. Mitsotakis, the Prime Minister himself, has categorically repeated and rejected the idea, insisting on priority of keeping the market and education levels open. So anyway, the Greek press understands that emergency measures are only restricted to certain local areas, modelled on those in place in other European countries. These provide for restrictions on opening hours of restaurants and entertainment venues in conjunction with a ban on music. Well, there we go. The old ban on music is coming, and standing in those places, additional restrictions on the unvaccinated or an extension of mandatory shots have been rejected as counterproductive. Well, there's a turn up for the books. I've got to be honest, they're now saying that this new variant, which is deadlier and worse than the last one, they're now saying, well, having the booster shot probably isn't going to protect you from this new variant. But just remember this. There's only been 3 reported cases of the new variant in the UK. There was about 60 worldwide that had been reported. This variant had been known about since July, since the summer, and now it's only becoming a threat, which again is all very strange and all very odd. But anyway, essentially, the Greek government will stick to its threefold goal of increasing vaccinations as far as possible, intensifying controls for strict compliance with measures that come into force, which came into force last Monday, and boosting the national health system with private sector backup. Now, the positivity percentage over the last 7 days has been stable, ranging from 1.78% to 1.81%. Correspondingly, the 7-day fluctuating average of cases was stable over the last week at around about 6,700 cases, while the average number of hospital admissions was 447 patients. Government officials point out that pressure on the health system last spring was much higher and incubations reached 841. And if you remember, at that time, there was only 900 beds available in ICUs across the country. The number now is 1,300 beds are available. So at the moment, looking at the figures from this morning, the health system is not under too much of a pressure, but only in certain areas of the country, and that's mainly been in the northern part of Greece, not so much in the southern part. And yes, patients have been moved around, to wherever ICU beds are available. And again, at the moment, private doctors have only been called into action up in the north part of the country, but not in other parts of the country. And also as well at the moment, the army at the moment have not been mobilised with mobile hospitals to treat a 4th wave pandemic, as was done earlier in the year. But anyway, again, keeping an eye on this because things are fluctuating all the time. And again, Jane and I are worried that we may not be going to the UK depending on what happens, not only here in Greece, but also what is happening in the UK as well. Now, interestingly, 5 Greek citizens who arrived from South Africa countries via a stopover in the United Arab Emirates have been placed on a 10-day precautionary quarantine. Now, according to the state news, here in Greece, they tested negative for COVID-19 upon arrival. However, they were quarantined as required by the new protocol due to the Omicron mutations of the coronavirus, which emerged in South Africa, and they are staying in a quarantine hotel. Now, the passengers will undergo a molecular diagnostic test, or a PCR, after 10 days, and if the result is negative, their quarantine will end. Now, the Civil Aviation Authority, the Greek Civil Aviation Authority, had earlier issued an emergency flight for travellers from 9 South African countries, which included Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Zambia and Zimbabwe, only allowing Greek nationals as well as other travellers from the above countries travelling for essential reasons on the condition of 3 negative tests or a special entry permit by the competent Greek consular authorities, irrespective of their vaccination status. Now, upon arrival, all passengers now are subject to a rapid test and a 10-day quarantine at a space designated by authorities. Now, their release from quarantine is contingent upon a negative PCR test, but that is exempt for children that is exempt from the above are children under the age of 12. So at least children are not expected to be PCRing on arrival with parents, because the last thing you want to see is families being split by what's going on. Now, interestingly, Jane was looking at some stories yesterday from Botswana about how people in Botswana are very annoyed at the moment that obviously the name of this new strain has been linked to them. They've actually said this has now destroyed their tourist season for next year, or as it might be running at the moment. I'm not sure if it is, but they've said that in their country, people have been clinging on by fingertips, hoping that they would have a clear run of a good season for next year. But since this variant has been named the Botswana variant, they've also said that they've seen a massive drop-off in bookings to their location for what they do in the way of their tourism product. Interestingly, another fact that this woman mentioned, and to be honest, we haven't had a chance to cross-check it just to see if she says is true, that a lot of these cases of this variant have actually been from people who have been working in diplomatic areas that have been tested positive with this strain. Now, whether that's true or not, but again, it does show you that these are the people that are traveling about. These are also the people who have, shall we say, get weighed through at times and not held back. But it's interesting that diplomats are the people that it seems, according to some information, are the people that are actually getting this variant into their system. So again, I'm going to keep an eye out on that story, see how much of that is true. Also, you've got to remember yesterday, Cyprus actually put its ban in, where they were allowing their own nationals to come straight through and to go home after testing. But the people on the flight from those countries, those African countries, were in effect being told you can't come in, you've got to wait and you've got to go into quarantine. Now, the other interesting thing about this is it's not been mentioned here in Greece whether if you are on one of these flights that come in from South Africa or somewhere like that, and where you may test positive and you are sent to one of these quarantine hotels, is who's picking up the tab on that? Are you in the same position as it was in the summer, where if you tested positive arriving here in Zakynthos, or you tested positive before you left Zakynthos, that you would end up in the 4-star spa resort down in Kerry for the duration until you were deemed safe enough to return to whichever country you come from. So again, that's not been made totally clear. However, it's been made totally clear in the UK that if you test positive when you arrive back in the UK, you are straight into one of these hotels, as they're calling them, where you will stay at your own cost. And the figures is about £1,900 a week, where you'll stay there for 10 days at your own expense before being allowed out. So the thing at the moment, travel is becoming very, very difficult at the moment. Doesn't matter whether you're coming into Greece, going out of Greece, going from South Africa or wherever into UK or into Greece, life is getting very difficult if you want to move about over the Christmas period. And again, this next 2 weeks is going to be critical as to whatever decision is going to be made, especially for Jane and I, as to whether we are going to be able to go back to the UK or not. We've already cancelled going to Austria because of what's been going on there in the way of unvaccinated people. They've been ramping it up. Also, the Netherlands have also been ramping up their lockdowns, etc. for people. And a lot of people now are getting very fed up with this at the moment. And there have been demonstrations. There have been people taking to the streets to say that they feel things are not right. And again, the mandatory vaccination rule that a lot of governments now are trying to push through for public safety. A lot of people are questioning whether mandatory vaccination is the right way ahead. I'm getting the opinion now that you will not be able to vaccinate out of this crisis. You're going to have to allow a certain amount of herd immunity to be able to get hold. Because again, in the past, in history, when it became the Black Death, the Spanish flu, or whatever other plagues we had back in those eras, at the end of the day, it was natural immunity in the human race that allowed us to continue, or else otherwise we would have all died out in the 1400s from the Black Death. But anyway, that's by the by. Anyway, a bit of local news from Zakynthos. An interesting story that caught my eye over the weekend. The balance sheet of the Zaynthos Municipality for the year 2014 was finally voted on with many questions. Anyway, this happened last Thursday afternoon, an issue that remained pending for 7 whole years due to the disagreements within the financial services, but also various pending issues that followed and continue to follow its bad luck through the process that is democracy here on Zakynthos. Anyway, the meeting was attended by the certified auditor, who travelled all the way to Zakynthos to present his work and to answer questions from the city councillors. You might remember the meeting was adjourned a couple of weeks ago because obviously with the bad weather that we had, the auditor couldn't get from Athens to turn up, and a lot of people wanted him there in person to talk about what his findings were, but also as well, they didn't want him to do it via a Zoom conference because they couldn't get hold of him to do a Zoom conference. So he's had a little bit longer to work on the books, shall we say. But anyway, it said what should be pointed out that there were many absences by councillors, mainly from the side of the opposition factions, but also the inability of the municipality also to register all its properties in the land registry. So again, you had councillors who didn't turn up for the meeting, plus as well, there's properties that the municipality owned that again had not been fully registered in the Greek land registry, and that will become a bit more apparent in later parts of this report. Now, anyway, the approval of the balance sheet was possible, and in the voting there were 13 positive votes. I like that. 4 present, basically I think they were the abstainers who just were there and not making a decision. And there was 1 no vote. 1 person was not happy with the balance sheet. Anyway, what needs to be done now is, in no time, is that the approval of the balance sheet for the following years up until 2020, they now have to obviously be looked at as well. Now, initially, the certified auditor informed about the plan of his remarks on the balance sheet and said that he identified projects that were not completed, and they amounted to over 6 million euros. So yeah, there was 6 million euros on projects that hadn't been finished. However, no word as to what these projects were, but this is what was said in the information that came out from the municipality. Another black spot, they said, is the money managed by the public utilities of the municipality, for which there was no audit had been done over that time. A sum of more than 144,000 euros was also found as a bank deposit, money that the banks did not recognise. So there was 144,000 euros which had suddenly appeared, and nobody knows obviously where this money has come from, and did not recognise what its source was. It was probably money from something for something that probably didn't get done. But anyway, that's by the way. It was also mentioned in the remarks that the SATA money amounting to 500,000 euros did not go for the projects it was purposed for, that was prescribed by law. So there was another 500,000 euros that was discovered that basically wasn't used for projects that the money was supposed to go for. So whether that money was spent, that's not really been actually made very clear, but it was not spent on the projects where the money was earmarked to go. Again, more questions. Anyway, the questions from the municipal councillors, followed by initially from Mr. Antos Kalamanis, asked to find out what is happening with the real estate of the municipality, if its value has been valued, and why it has not been registered in the land registry yet. Now, you'd think if you had municipal property, this would date back years and years and years, generations and generations, and it would somehow, at some point, have been entered legally onto the land registry. Anyway, the mayor replied that the municipality, and this is quite a huge number, the municipality has 758 properties, and he said cannot give a ubiquitous answer. So again, they've got 758 properties that technically belong to the municipality, and the answer is they don't know, basically, as to why have they never been put on the registry. Anyway, on the issue of bank loans, it also became known once again that at that time the municipal council did not recognise the loan agreement with Piraeus. Now, that Piraeus loan agreement is the one that the big scandal is over. That was done about, just before I arrived here on the island back in about 2004, where money was borrowed for the municipality. Signatures were put on a document, but nobody's quite sure who signed it. The only person they could definitely identify as signing it was the mayor at that time, who has now passed away. But again, this has been an ongoing thing where this money, I think it was somewhere around about 9 million euros, basically couldn't be accounted for. Piraeus Bank had waved this money through, or this loan agreement through, without a second thought. I know certain people who worked for Piraeus Bank at the time lost their jobs because they realised what was going on. No one would listen to them. And again, it's an ongoing court case, an ongoing battle that's been going on since time immemorial. And it was still going on literally just a few weeks ago, when they have now called for another case to be run next year in September. So again, it journeys on. But anyway, let's go. Where was I? Okay. They also said that this loan, which continues to occupy the municipality to this day, as the opposition asked for the bank to assume its responsibility for the cancellation of the loan. They're basically asking the Piraeus Bank to cancel that loan because it was a fraudulent loan. The municipality, I remember interviewing the deputy mayor round about 2008, 2009 about this issue. And he said that it was costing the municipality to service that loan somewhere in the region of 80,000 euros a month to service that loan, which was money they felt could have gone into other locations. The loan was obviously a fraudulent loan and should be cancelled. Put it this way, the bank's insured against things like that. So again, that was money that could have gone to fix the roads, fix the streets, fix the lights, clear the drains. But that 80,000 was going to the Piraeus Bank. Where the 9 million ended up, God only knows. Anyway, Municipal Councillor Andreas Zaynthos said that the balance sheet shows the contradictions of the public administration, and the current mayor comes to sign something for which he has no responsibility since it concerns many years ago. He also said that there are responsibilities because after 10 years, the property of the municipality has not been registered yet. The municipal councillors of Lakis Epirus said that they are voting against the balance sheet because it reflects the spirit of Kallikratis. That was to do with the financial bailout and the system that the government was using, trying to clear debt and everything over. And they said this is just a hangover of that era, that administration, which basically means an outdated or ideology system, which is not current now in this day. But anyway, and this increases the taxation of the citizens. And I agree with him as well that the mayor has to sign off on this. This is not the mayor's responsibility. And can I say this about the mayor at the moment? There's been a lot of people who've been knocking the current mayor that we have at the moment. But I think the current mayor at the moment has been very brave. He's been poking in corners and finding documentation from other previous administrations and bringing it into the light. A lot of people are very well aware of what's been going on. But for him to bring it into the light and to question why certain decisions were made, whether it's to do with the cinema and the forecourt, the commission's thing that they've had, also to do with the fixing of the roads, fixing of the plumbing, the sewage systems, all which was signed off as having been complete. But in reality, they were not completed, and the money that was used to do those jobs was either not spent directly on those jobs, or only part of it went on doing that work, and the rest just disappeared. So therefore, I think the mayor has been very brave, but also as well, he's not getting himself bogged down in trying to acclaim blame to say, who was at fault, who was not at fault, because I think at some point this will come out and maybe we might see some kind of case go against previous administrations. But at the moment, they're still trying to work through the quagmire of the ins and outs of what financial transaction was done with here and what was done with so-and-so. And at the end of the day, he's trying to put things back into a proper state of repair. And at the moment, he's getting blasted from all sides as to the way that he's handling it. And to be honest, I think what he has proven is this. It's not so much about the man in charge. It's about the people that surround them, and what they're taking from the system can reflect badly on the man who's ultimately running it. But again, at the end of the day, it's his responsibility to put these people in order. This may have not been going on in previous administrations, but again, it seems to be a battle all the time with the mayor and the people that he works with to get things done, to get things sorted, and to get to the bottom of what has been going on with previous administrations as well. Anyway, in a statement, Mr. Kamasis said that the scandal of Volymez had to be done with the purchase and the sale of 15,000 acres to show how unprotected the municipality property is. Now, that is another ongoing case at the moment about the 15,000 acres up at Volymez, where the shipwreck is, that was sold technically to the Sheikh of Qatar for the building of this new resort, this golf course and everything else. Basically, he'd been shook down for about 400,000 euros, and the old Sheikh of Qatar was not going to take that lying down. And again, this is another ongoing issue about sale of municipality property, and also some of the land that belonged to people up there by basically a compulsory purchase order for this consortium. Now, again, that is a long-going legal case at the moment. I'm not going to get drawn into the detail on that because there is still an ongoing court case going on. But again, that's another one of these little scandals that, again, has been plaguing the administration of Zakynthos. Anyway, the mayor, our current mayor at the moment, Mr. Zakynthos, promised that he will not hide anything, he says, and if the balance sheet and other financial data are needed, they will be sent to the justice. Anyway, the voting and approval of the balance sheet then obviously followed. So again, that was 2007. That was, I think we still got the rest of them to come up to 2020. So that'll make some interesting reading. Also as well with the weather, there was a car accident with a serious injury that occurred on Saturday night here on the island on the KTEO road. It seems a motorcycle collided with the car, which resulted in the injury of its rider. The rider was a Bulgarian citizen living here on the island. He was transported with many fractures to the Zakynthos hospital. Fortunately, according to information from the Zakynthos hospital, his life was not in danger. So again, please be very careful out on the roads. They've been out busy cleaning, sweeping, clearing up debris from the weekend. That's been an ongoing thing. So just be very careful where you're going. Also, again, Jane and I, when we were out in Kalamaki yesterday looking at some of the damage in those locations, you may have seen the pictures of Stani restaurant, which basically got levelled within 1.5 seconds. The gentleman there, Mr. Stani, thought I was from the commission coming round to check his claim. So once again, just be aware, if you are somebody who suffered damage through the weekend, through the tornado and the heavy rains, you might be able to get something. So my advice to you, speak to your accountant. They will put you in touch with the regional office, and obviously then you can make some kind of claim against what went on over the weekend in regards to weather. And finally, the Public Historical Library of Zakynthos has been awarded a grant by the Aegean Islands Policy. The Zakynthos MP had stated in a press release, I warmly both want to thank the Minister of Shipping and Island Policy, Mr. Gilianis Palatakis, and the Secretary General as well, Mr. Melanos Kuratakis, for their prompt response and consummate implementation of the commitment to financial support from the government. Anyway, he said, I must emphasise that through this sponsorship, it will be possible to publish the catalogued archive of Dionys Solomos, a very important initiative for the Public Historical Library of Zakynthos. In closing, I would like to thank the Supervisory Committee of our library, as well as its staff, for their continuous and uninterrupted efforts, and have the sole purpose of upgrading and highlighting the role of the Public Historical Library of Zakynthos as an emblematic reference point of culture of our place. So there you go. Congratulations. It looks like the library's going to get some money to be able to digitise its archive. Once again, if you're ever in town and you're next door to the cinema, why not pop in and have a look in the library there? It's quite interesting. They've got a little bit of information on the island, artifacts, stuff like that, as well as books. As far as I'm aware, don't have many books in English. I think they may have a few, but mainly it's a Greek library. But again, it's just an interesting little location just to go and have a little browse, show some support for it. Because again, there's a lot of history on this island, which a lot of people are probably not aware of. We do have a lot of culture here on Zakynthos. Right. Just a quick reminder, thank you to all those people that tuned into the Northern Soul Show last night on beatsradio.co.uk. That show is going to be repeated tonight at 9 p.m. Greek time, which is 7 p.m. UK time on beatsradio.co.uk. So why not come and have a little listen? I'll be in the chat room again, taking any requests or dedications or just little chats with people about their memories of Northern Soul. Anyway, big shout out to Shane Bauer. Nice to see you tuning in there, buddy. Also, Amanda Gregory tuning in as well, as Mark Billingham tuning in as well. Charles Ballantyne, Diane Kemp. Heather Nash says, good morning to you and Jane from a cold and snowy Birmingham, but it feels like 8. I'm off to work, full of cold, feeling rough. Jane says, I didn't think she was going, but it looks like she is going. She needs the money. There you go. Also, as well, can I say a quick hello to Steve Hinklin? Steve Hinklin was Santa Claus over the weekend in Stoke-on-Trent. On, I think it was the Saturday, they had really bad weather there. It seems his grotto blew away. They managed to repair the grotto, so he was back being Santa yesterday. I saw the pictures from Stafford FM, absolutely amazing. They built you a really nice little set there. So again, if you're in Stoke-on-Trent, what's the name of the farm? What was the name of the farm where he's doing it?
It's Stafford Way.
Ashdown Farm, was it? Ashdown, something? Anyway, if you're in the Stoke-on-Trent area, go and see Steve. Being Father Christmas, I'm not sure if he's there today, but I know at the weekends he's there being old Father Christmas. Right, that's it from me. I'm going to keep my ear to the ground. If I hear of anything, I'll let you know. Can I just say thank you to all those people that are supporting the podcast. It's greatly appreciated. Please, again, if you just want to subscribe, like and subscribe on YouTube to let's just click the old bell so you get notified when the next one goes up. I always put up the broadcast onto YouTube. It's more of an archive really. So again, but it's just nice to get the numbers up. Just like and subscribe on there. Right, that's it from me. I think today could be a day of cleaning, depending on the weather, because we're going to rip out everything in our lounge to clean the lounge. Before we go away, if we go away, but we'll keep our ear to the ground. Anyway, you take care. Have a great day. Ta-ra.